times we do come across a saying, passion is the key to success, or passion is the fuel behind a successful career. But what is the best way to achieve this career? And what is the best way in which you can plan your career? Or what is the best way you predict your career? The options available are plenty in number. Nowadays, we can see there is a large scope available for the engineers like design engineers, verification engineers, CAD engineers, that is computer aided design engineers, embedded system engineers, and so on in well-reputed product-based companies. But what do these career paths exactly fall on? Yes, the answer for all these things is nothing but VLSI design and embedded systems. Hello everyone, I am Soumya Bhatt, Assistant Professor Senior in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at Sri Madhva Vadiraja Institute of Technology and Management, Bantakal.
I am Lakshmi Shetty, Assistant Professor Senior in Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, SMVITM, Bantakal. And today we will talk about the VLSI domain opportunities and how do you prepare for the VLSI domain. So let me begin with the companies that are present or that are working in VLSI and embedded system domain. So it's very much necessary that you all should know what all are the companies that are working. Now these companies that are in VLSI domain or embedded system domain can be categorized as semiconductor industry. So semiconductor industry is a booming industry and Government of India is giving lot of emphasis to this industry these days, and there's a lot of budget allocation and investment planned for semiconductor industry. So in coming days semiconductor industry is going to boom. Let us see some of the companies that are there in semiconductor industry. I have categorized these companies into 4 categories. The first category that we will be talking about is multinational companies that are present. So when we talk about VLSI and embedded system domain, the first company, multinational company that comes into picture is Intel. Obviously, Intel has a lot of big presence and variety of products coming under the VLSI domain. So Intel, then we have NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Sankalp Semiconductors, Texas Instruments, Robert Bosch, then we have AMDs and ARM also. There are in the domain of microprocessor, microcontrollers, so we have ARM, then NXP Semiconductors. These are the major of course there are many other major multinational companies in VLSI and embedded system domain. So I have named few amongst that. Now if I look at a local company or Udupi based company, even Karmic, which has Texas Instru as their major clients, even they have grown to being a MNC or multinational company in VLSI domain. So that's about the major multinational companies. Then we also have a category of EDA companies or the tools that are used in the VLSI domain. We call it as EDA tools. So there are companies who are into giving up the EDA tools. Those companies can be categorized or can be named as Cadence, one of the major players in EDA tools. Cadence, Mentor Graphics, Xilinx, and there's also one more company called as Synopsys. So these are the 4 companies we can name which are into EDA tool bringing up. Then we can categorize the third one as the service companies, or we also call it as the companies that are providing services in or post implementation services, or even they have their own products as well. These companies, all the IT companies that we have, may it be Infosys, may it be Wipro, HCL, Mindtree, L&T Infotech, all these IT companies have a VLSI division also, which is into service providing. So we can name them as the other companies or service providers in VLSI domain. So this is the third category that we can talk about. And finally, I would also like to name some of the government organization or public sector companies that are present in electronics field. So the major player in electronics field, the government company or the public sector company comes as Bharat Electronics Limited. Then we have DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization of India. Then we have ISRO. ISRO also has a lot of opportunities for people who want to work in embedded VLSI domain. We have Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or also known as HAL. Then we have Baba Atomic Research Center. So these are some of the public sector or government organizations which are working in the domain that we are speaking today. So that is what I had when it comes to the company's presence in this domain. So multinational, EDA tools related companies, service providers and government organizations are what I spoke about. Now that we know which are the companies that are present in this domain, let us see what kind of job profiles or designation does this domain have. So when you know different designations or different job profiles that are present, so you can prepare accordingly. So knowing the business or job profile is very much necessary. So here we have categorized the job profiles in 5 categories. So these categories, more or less similar categories, are there in every VLSI domain companies or embedded system domain companies. These are the 5. There may be some more profiles or some less profiles based on their business requirement. But these are the 5 major ones that are existing in VLSI domain. So the first profile that I will be speaking about is the physical design engineer. So physical design engineer will be the one who will be responsible for designing, building, taking care of the performance and maintaining of various circuit applications or various products, microchips, microprocessors, microcontrollers. So they will be the one who will be designing, building, maintaining as well as looking after the performance of the design part of the circuit applications, right? So this is about the physical design engineer. They will also be involved, physical design engineers will also be involved in testing and debugging of their designs. Okay, so whatever designs has been done, so there has to be a testing and debugging done so that the design can be improved. In case if there is any issues that has come up while testing, the design can be improved. So even testing also comes under the testing of the design comes under the physical design engineer's job responsibilities. So that's the first one that we'll be talking about. Then we have analog layout engineers. So layout engineers is the one, as an electronics engineer you should know that every circuit will have every circuit will perform well in case if it is placed and routed properly, right? So the placement and routing or designing a layout is very much important. That means they have to understand where the electrical signals are propagating in mixed signal circuits. So this is the responsibility of analog layout engineers. So we can in short say taking care of the routing or the placements of various blocks or so that the speed, latency and the performance is improved for the design. This will be the responsibility of a layout engineer. Layout engineer has to have the knowledge about different CAD tools, computer aided design tools that are there for simulation. So these are the softwares or these are the tools that are available. We also call it as simulation tools. Knowledge about these simulation tools is very much required for analog layout engineer. So this is the second profile that we have taken care of. Then the third one what we have is RTL design engineer. RTL design engineer is a micro level architecture design engineer. So we have, suppose if we say that we have a circuit application, so the circuit application has to be broken into different smaller parts. We call it as micro level parts, right? So different blocks has to be designed. Let us say a designing of a power supply will be a separate design altogether. Then designing of a control circuitry will be a separate design altogether. But it is a part of a circuit application, right? So the RTL designer or the RTL design engineer will be responsible for doing or for taking care of the designing of at a micro level architecture level. Now here RTL design engineer has to have, because the programming language that is used for RTL designing is Verilog or VHDL popularly. So they have to have knowledge about Verilog or VHDL designing part. Then we come to, now these are all the design engineers profile that we have. Now next we will come to, because any design has to be verified and validated, right? So the verification engineers and validation engineers are also few profiles or the job profiles that are, or job responsibilities that the engineer in VLSI domain will be working in. So the fourth one what we will see is a verification engineer or a physical verification engineer. So the physical verification engineer will be responsible for making use of the testing environments, in which testing environments should the design be tested, what all are the testing tools and components to be used, then what is the testing methodology to be used. All these decisions are to be taken by the verification engineer, and verification engineer's interference will be there, or verification engineer will come into picture, I won't say interference, will come into picture at various stage of the designing part, okay, right from the first block design till the end application design. The verification engineers will be taking care of the testing part of it. So their major responsibility is testing and debugging. So this is about the physical verification engineers. Then the last profile that we will be talking today is about validation engineer. So post silicon validation engineers. So we call it as a post silicon validation engineers. Why? Because their responsibility is to validate whether the chip that is being manufactured or the chip that is being fabricated is working through all the functionalities for which it is designed. So if the functionalities, all the functionalities are working properly in the lab setup, so that checking is the responsibility of validation engineers. So the goal of the validation engineers is at the chip level, they will be validating the functionalities of the chip that is being manufactured or that has been designed or have done, and their goal is to see that it is deployed to the market, or it is deployable product, right? So it can be deployed to the market. So that checking has to be done by the validation engineers. So these are the 5 important job profiles that are existing in VLSI domain. We have seen physical design engineers, layout engineers, RTL design engineers, verification engineers and validation engineers. So this is all I had to tell about the job profiles that are there in the VLSI domain.
Yes, after knowing about the job profiles which are required to be attained by a VLSI design engineer, let us now see what are the different skills which has to be acquired by a VLSI design engineer in order to get placed in the recruited company in the VLSI domain. So first and foremost thing is, in terms of skills, we can categorize it in terms of 2 distinct skills. One is theoretical skill, another one is practical skill. If you go for the recruitment process in any of the company, first one, that is the theoretical skill, is very important and mandatory. Practical skill will help you to make different, or I can call it as a unique. So how you can be unique when compared with the others in the group. So that matters a lot in terms of practical aspects. So first let us concentrate upon what are the theoretical aspects you have to be familiarized with in order to get placed in the VLSI domain company. The thing is, we have to start from the scratch, from the first year of engineering, as now you are aware that the basic qualification which is mandatory is BE or BTech in electricals or electrical and electronics engineering, or I can call it as electronics and communication engineering. So any candidate who is having the qualification in these 3 domains can go for the semiconductor industry. So in theoretical knowledge, when coming to your first semester or second semester of BE, you are supposed to concentrate upon the physics concepts. Physics concepts on semiconductors, also basic electrical and basic electronics, where you will be studying the basics of applications of KVL and KCLs, Ohm's law, how to find out the distinct parameters in terms of voltage, current, power, etc. When it comes to the second year, that is in depth of your engineering, the subjects you need to concentrate during your second till final year of your engineering is, first and foremost is network theory or network analysis, wherein you will be studying about both AC as well as DC type of circuits. So what are the different theorems you can have in terms of application for analyzing each and every individual circuit, how you can determine the value of voltage and value of current by the application of various theorems. Along with that, how you can solve for the Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's voltage law as well as Kirchhoff's current law, which you will be studying in your first year of engineering as well. The second subject you can concentrate is on analog electronics or electronic devices, wherein you will be studying about circuits once again in terms of operational amplifiers, in terms of any other type of circuits like your op-amps. When you are going to concentrate there, you will be studying about the differential amplifiers, or what are the different types of operational amplifiers in terms of inverting type, non-inverting type, summing circuit, differentiator, difference type of amplifier. So operational amplifier will be one of the favorite topics of the recruiter as well, wherein you can expect most of the questions wherein probably all different type of aspects which are covered under operational amplifiers will be completed in that particular subject. The next subject what you are going to concentrate is on digital electronics. So most of the students will have them as a favorite subject. Even the recruiter is also going to ask more number of questions in digital electronics. So when it comes to digital electronics subject, you can broadly classify or categorize it in terms of a sequential circuit as well as combinational circuit. Combinational circuits you can easily go through it, which is a simple logic circuit or logic diagram, wherein you will be predicting or you will be asked to find out what is the output of a particular logic circuit. The questions may be asked in terms of Carnot maps or K maps. Also the questions may be asked in terms of truth tables. So combinational circuits, almost all the designs what you have studied in your digital electronics, you have to be very thorough with that. When it comes to the sequential circuits, bit difficult to deal with the sequential type of circuits, wherein you have to concentrate on the concepts like the design of flip-flops, design of counters, then what are the concepts behind latches. So all these in terms of sequential circuits you have to go through. Other subjects you have to concentrate are analog as well as digital communication. Analog communication hardly you can expect few questions. So for the RF designers, the subject is very important if you are going for the RF designer post or job profile. In case of digital communication, you can expect more number of questions. So in analog as well as digital communication, you have to concentrate upon the concepts like signal integrity, I diagram, BER and so on. So these are the some of the few topics which you need to cover in your analog as well as digital communication. Apart from that, the questions may also be appearing from your signals and systems, wherein you have to be thorough with the different types of signals what you have, application of your transforms in terms of Z transform, in terms of Fourier transform. So what are the different concepts you are going to study with that, you have to be very thorough. Control system subjects may be asked. In control system you are supposed to be thorough with the signal flow graph, the Mason-Gaines formula. Along with that, you may have to go through quickly about the concepts of Bode plot, root locus plot and so on. So these are the concepts which may be asked in your control system subject. Apart from that, you have to study your VLSI, which is very important. Sometimes you may be studying this subject in your 7th semester of your engineering. So prior to the 2018 scheme, they were studying it during their 5th semester of engineering. So at least the basics of VLSI design flow you have to be thorough. Along with that, you have to be thorough with the working of a CMOS inverter. So how the CMOS inverter is going to work in different regions. So what happens if you are going to replace the pull-up and pull-down devices? So in other terms, what happens if the pull-up devices are replaced with the N MOSFETs and pull-down devices are replaced with P MOSFETs? So what will be the change you are going to observe? That you have to be very thorough. Apart from that, you have to be thorough with the concepts of HDL, hardware description language, wherein you will be studying the programming in terms of Verilog. So these are the few aspects in terms of subject what you are going to concentrate. So theoretical aspects I can call it as. Make sure that you are going to refer to the standard textbooks always prescribed by university. Along with that, remember that you are not going to by heart any of the concepts. Please understand the application of each and every subject what you are going to study. Have at least 1 or 2 subjects of your interest, so that when the recruiter asks about your favorite subject, you have a very good knowledge of that. That is the strong foundation of that particular subject, which will be carrying you more weightage or helps you in good communication with the recruiter as well. Second thing is, as I already told, the practical aspects, which is going to add weightage for your resume. It's not mandatory kind, but it will be making yourself unique when compared with the others. So for that, you have to go through some of the software tools which are required to be studied, like Mentor Graphics tool or Cadence tool. If you are having any of these tools, you can try it out. With the help of these tools, you can do the circuit as well as the layout of a different equations, I can call it as equation. So for that, you have to be thorough with the knowledge of the tools. Apart from that, the programming languages, which is mandatory in terms of getting placed in VLSI industry, is Verilog. So Verilog programming you have to know. You can practice Verilog programming through a software tool. So you can the best tool what you can use is the Xilinx tool. So even in your resume you can put them up. If you are knowing any of these, or if you are aware of any of these software tools, you can put them up in your resume, which will be having or carrying additional weightage for your resume. So by looking into that, the recruiter comes to know that you have some practical knowledge of the theoretical aspects what you have studied. So these two are the aspects in terms of skills required. The additional skills what the companies or what the recruiter is expecting from you is, one thing, you can go for training or you can go for internships in the area where you want to excel. If you want to excel in VLSI domain, go and opt for an internship in the VLSI company. If you are interested in embedded system domain, go and opt for internship program in any embedded system based industries. So the thing is, when you are opting for doing any sort of internships or training, the suggestion is, please do carry out this internship program only during your 3rd or 4th semester of your engineering, because by that time you will be having a grip on almost all the subjects or the fundamentals which is required in these industries. Apart from that, please go through the papers through different platforms like IEEE platforms, Springer, elsewhere, wherein you will be getting tremendous number of papers where you will be trying to understand. You can consider your own area of interest on which you are willing to work on. Based upon that, you can do search so many papers in these platforms, so that you will be gaining some additional knowledge beyond your syllabus, which is an extra weightage once again when compared to your normal technical, that is theoretical aspect. So with this, I can conclude that whatever the things you are going to do in the VLSI domain, so it has to include in terms of gaining the theoretical aspects, in terms of gaining the practical aspects, to have hands-on experience either through internship or training process, Apart from that, gain some additional knowledge in terms of review of certain papers through a very good platform like IEEE, Springer, elsewhere and all, and try to understand in which particular area you are very good at and have that as your favorite subject. So I am sure that with these distinct knowledge, you can really excel in the field of VLSI and embedded system domain. So with this, I will conclude today's webinar on VLSI domain. Hope this session was useful for all of you. So stay tuned for our next webinar series during our next week by some other departments. Thank you.